We thought that probably we would follow them right up to the point where Peter and probably his wife went into the room where a very nice little lady will give him what she calls the medicament.
Yes.
And it's all done very properly. There's a camera overhead. And about 3 times, the biblical 3 times, he's asked whether he understands what he's doing, whether he understands that if he thinks this, it will kill him. He answered yes to all of them. Because what wasn't shown in the documentary is that shortly after the police are called.
Yes.
Because it could always be possible that in some way this process could be used for committing an actual murder. Well, the police turned up shortly, and they were like police. They weren't particularly good, they certainly weren't bad. It was a big all in the job, a day's work. They spoke to a nice lady, they looked at the files, came up to us and said, BBC? And we said yes. I said, okay. And they left, because the BBC wouldn't get involved in anything wrong. He was a very rich man, extremely rich, houses all over the place,
Finest hotels,
and a very rich family behind him. But he just did not wish to be a prisoner of a disease until he died. So he decided to leave before the end. And this was all new stuff for the crew and everybody. And I thought, well, I am a knight, and that's got to mean something. So I said to his wife, would you like me to come in with you? And she said, oh God, yes. And then the day came, and because we've seen them quite a few times, and we've been in Switzerland for about 3 days, and we've been looking at our watches. Oh no, now, and they said, yes, all of you, come in. The cameraman, everybody, the sound man. We all went in. They were saying, come in. And then Peter, God bless him, after there were two potions. One is to stop you throwing up the first, which the body would actually throw up had you not given the first potion.
It's vitally important to keep it down.
Yeah, and you have to keep it down. We were still sort of chatting to him, and then the lady came up, and here it was. He said, "Hello, thank you very much for this." He said, "You know, very kind. I've been treated very kindly by you, and with everyone involved." And he held out his hand and shook my hand and said, "Have a good life." I know I have. And he said the same things a lot. And then he was going around and thanking everybody by name. This is a man that's already drunk the hemlock, as it were. That's how he referred to it. But it wasn't taken. And then he got embarrassed because he couldn't remember the name of the sound guy. And, oh, I'm really sorry. Because his name was Mike. All sound men have the name Mike. And then he went and sat down next to his wife, in between his wife and the nurse, who was just, as it were, keeping a watchful eye, and died, making a rather guttural noise as he did so. And I can tell you that very few deaths are silent. The body goes on making noises even if the brain is no longer engaged. It takes quite a long time for the whole of a body to die, as any medic will tell you.
The snow was falling.
And the snow was falling. Oh yes, and the snow was falling. Yeah. And outside, a man called Horst, who was the husband of the nurse, and he had an Uncle Pieter pipe, the real old curly pipe. There's the fairy tale pipe, and he was walking backwards and forwards on the veranda in the snow, smoking his pipe, and the smoke was coming up through the snow, and it was like some Bergman film. And I realised why he wasn't inside, because to have a man smoking his pipe in a place where a man was dying was against health and safety. To laugh and cry and kill everybody.
Would you like me to read the Jane Austen bit?
The Jane Austen bit. Let's bring it back.
Is that Vimes is at Ramkin Hall at Crundle's, and yet another tea party that Sybil has organised, and Vimes is there, and he's been told to be on his best behaviour.
No, she's gone. No, this is at the home of
yes,
not the girls and the mother. Who wants to get rid of them, more or less.
Okay, here we go. The rest of the day did not work out well. Vimes, suspicions filling his mind, was metaphorically, and only just short of literally, dragged by Sybil to see her friend Ariadne, the lady blessed with the 6 daughters. There we are. Yeah, what do we know anyway?
A long time ago.
In actual fact, there were only 5 visible in the chintzy drawing room when Sybil and he were ushered in. He was fated as the dear, brave Commander Vimes. He hated that shit. But under Sybil's benign but careful gaze, he was wise enough not to say so, at least not in those precise words. And so he grinned and bore it while they fluttered around him like large moths, and he waved away yet more tea cakes and cups of tea that would have been welcome were it not that they looked and tasted like what proper tea turns into shortly after you. As far as Sam Vimes was concerned, he liked tea, but tea was not tea if, even before drinking it, you could see the bottom of the cup. Still worse than the stuff he was being offered was the conversation, which inclined towards bonnets, a subject on which his ignorance was not just treasured, but venerated. Excuse me, Commander. It took Vimes some time to see where the voice had come from. This daughter hadn't spoken a word all afternoon, but had occasionally scribbled in a notebook. Now she gazed at him with what looked like a somewhat brighter smile than the rest of her sisters. Can I help you, miss? And perhaps you'll tell me your name? Jane, Commander. I am endeavouring to be a writer. May I ask if you have any views on whether that's an acceptable career for a young lady? Jane thought Vimes. The strange one. And she was. She was just as demure as the other sisters, but somehow, as he looked at her, he got the impression that she was seeing right through him, thoughts and all. Vimes leaned back in his chair, a little defensively, and said, well, it can't be a difficult job, given that all the words have probably been invented already. So you're saving your time right there. Considering that you simply have to put them together in a different order. That was about the limit of his expertise in the literary arts. But he added, what sort of thing were you thinking of writing, Jane? The girl looked embarrassed. Well, Commander, at the moment I'm working on what might be considered a novel about the complexities of personal relationships with all their hopes and dreams and misunderstandings. She coughed nervously as if apologising. Vimes pursed his lips. Yes, sounds basically like a good idea, miss, but I can't really help you on that. Though if I was you, and this is me talking off the top of my head, I'd be putting in a lot of fighting and bodies. And maybe a war, perhaps, is a bit of a background. Jane nodded uneasily. Oh, a remarkable suggestion, Commander, with much to recommend it, but possibly the relationships would be somewhat neglected. Vimes considered this input and said, well, you might be right. Then, out of nowhere, possibly some deep hole, a thought struck him, just as it had many times before, sometimes in nightmares. I wonder if any author has thought about the relationship between the hunter and the hunted, the policeman and the mysterious killer, the lawman who must think like a criminal sometimes in order to do his job, and maybe unpleasantly surprised at how good he is at such thinking. You know, perhaps just an idea, you understand? He said lamely, and wondered where the hell that had come from. Maybe the strange Jane had pulled it out of him, and even, perhaps, could resolve it. Would anybody like some more tea? Said Ariadne brightly. Lady Sybil was very quiet as their coach drove away, and so Vimes decided to bite the bullet now and get it over with. She was looking thoughtful, which was always worrying. Am I in trouble, Sybil? His wife looked at him blankly for a moment and then said, "You mean for telling that bunch of precious blooms to stop yearning for a life and to get out there and make one? Good heavens, no! You did everything I would have expected of you, Sam. You always do. I told Ariadne you wouldn't let her down. She doesn't have much of an income, and if you hadn't given them the righteous word, I think she would have eventually driven them out with a shovel."
Because the book is now out, so some of you already know it, that is why, about 1 year later, there is a book which is in fact dedicated to Commander Sir Samuel Vimes.
That's it.
And it's called Pride and Extreme Prejudice. I really am pleased with that one.
I can't help laughing out loud an awful lot, okay? But Terry always surprises me because the scene's going really well, and I'm laughing along with it, and then Terry drops the line in that actually means that I have to step outside the office because I'm actually going to die if I don't.
Punking off early.
But my favourite one is that Sam Vimes is in a huge bar in Bradford Hall, and he's under the bubbles, and he's conversing with Sybil. They're having a nice chat, and Sybil takes off her bathrobe and slips into the water. And Terry said, and the bubbles rose. As did Sam Vimes' spirits. And I had to go away for a bit on that one.
Brevity is the soul of wit.
Yes, it is, absolutely. One of our favourite pieces of grammar is the ellipsis, and we order them in daily.
Yeah. Sometimes we make our own, because the ones we make at home are a lot better than the shop bought.
Terry makes me stick them in, and if I mess them up, then I use one of the dots as a semicolon. The recyclable school of literature, Terry. So we've got to head off in a minute, unfortunately.
The reason for us being so definite about going is we've got about a day and a half's time to get out of the jet lag before we do this whole circus again in England, only even heavier.
Yeah, the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, where I last watched two of the river dancers doing their stuff. When the publishers told us that we would be there, you think, okay, well, Terry filled the Sydney Opera House. It was just, and I'm not allowed to use the word awesome as Terry will tell you.
No.
Yeah.
Why? Stop using the word awesome. Unless God and Satan actually go into battle in front of your eyes. A really good cup of coffee is a really good cup of coffee. It is not awesome. Sorry? What is awesome? There has to be some kind of a scale, you know. If a cup of coffee can be awesome, what is the universe?